Some places are more than just buildings, they're legends. They stand as monuments to human suffering and resilience, casting long shadows over the landscape of history. Alcatraz was one of them. Known far and wide, it was more than a prison. It was a symbol of ultimate confinement. They call it Itersekibir Wambandan Mak. A prison perched on a lonely island surrounded by freezing, deadly currents. The isolation was as much a part of the punishment as the bars and cells. The government sent its most dangerous inmates here. Men like Al Capone and the Birdman of Alcatraz. These were men who had defied the law and society, now confined to a place designed to break their spirits. The cells were tiny, the rules brutal, and hope was in short supply. Every day was a struggle to maintain a semblance of humanity. Solitary confinement in the hole could break even the toughest men. It was a place of utter darkness and silence, where time seemed to stand still. Guards watched every move, reminding you daily that escape was impossible. Their vigilance was relentless, their authority absolute. Alcatraz's reputation was its greatest weapon. No one had ever escaped and lived. The stories of failed attempts only added to the legend. Attempts ended in gunfire, drowning, or recapture. The treacherous waters and the ever-watchful guards made sure of that. The message was clear: this was the end of the line. For most, Alcatraz was a place where dreams died. But the human spirit is stubborn. Even in the darkest places, it finds a way to endure. Even in a concrete box, some men still dream. They dream of freedom, of a life beyond the bars. For most, Alcatraz was a dead end. A place where hope was extinguished. But for a few, it was a challenge to outwit the system, to defy the odds. In the early 1960s, a new inmate arrived. Frank Morris. He was different. A man with a mind always working, always planning. He saw the rock not as a fortress, but as a puzzle that he was determined to solve. Morris wasn't buying the story that escape was impossible. He believed that every lock had a key, every wall a weakness. He looked at the walls and saw opportunity. Where others saw barriers, he saw possibilities. For him, Alcatraz was just another problem to solve. A problem that required patience, ingenuity, and courage. And he was about to test the legend, to see if the rock could truly hold him. The stage was set for the most daring escape in American history, an escape that would challenge everything people believed about Alcatraz. The rock was about to be challenged like never before. The legend of Alcatraz was on the line. Frank Lee Morris wasn't a gangster. He was a quiet, brilliant escape artist. His reputation wasn't built on violence or notoriety, but on his uncanny ability to slip through the cracks of even the most secure institutions. Orphaned young, he grew up in institutions. His life, a string of burglaries and breakouts. From a tender age, Frank learned to rely on his wits, adapting to harsh environments and outsmarting those who tried to contain him. Each escape attempt was a lesson, each setback a new challenge to overcome. His genius-level IQ and knack for escaping landed him in Alcatraz in 1960. The authorities believed the rock was unbreakable, but for Frank, it was just another puzzle waiting to be solved. As inmate AZ 441, Morris kept to himself, but he was always watching, always planning. He studied the routines, the guards, the very walls around him, searching for weaknesses others missed. He didn't want money or revenge. He wanted freedom. For Frank, escape wasn't just about getting out, it was about proving that no cage could hold him. Soon, he found allies, John and Clarence Anglin, tough brothers with their own escape attempts behind them. The Anglins were resourceful, determined, and shared Frank's hunger for liberty. Alan West, a neighbor in the cell block, joined the team. West brought his own skills and knowledge of the prison's inner workings, making the group even stronger. In a place built on distrust, these four formed a secret bond. They became more than just fellow inmates, they became co-conspirators, united by a single, desperate hope. They whispered plans during meals, passed notes, and used the prison's noise to hide their plotting. Every conversation was coded, every glance a signal, as they worked under the noses of the guards. Music hour became their cover, while others played, they schemed. The strum of guitars and the hum of voices masked their whispered strategies and secret exchanges. They knew the risks. One mistake meant solitary, or worse. The threat of discovery loomed over every move, but the possibility of freedom was worth any price. But hope was stronger than fear. Each day their resolve grew, fueled by the dream of a life beyond the walls. Together they became a team, united by the dream of freedom. Their trust in each other was their greatest weapon. In the shadows of Alcatraz, a plan was taking shape. Every night they chipped away at the impossible, turning hope into action. The odds were impossible, but that only made them more determined. The greater the challenge, the more they believed in their cause. The greatest escape in history was about to begin. Against all odds, Frank Morris and his team were ready to risk everything for one shot at freedom. The plan started with a simple observation, something most would overlook. The old concrete around the cell vents was crumbling, weakened by years of salt air and neglect. To the guards, it was just another sign of the prison's age. Most saw a vent, Morris saw a doorway. Where others saw confinement, he saw possibility, a hidden path waiting to be discovered. If they could widen the opening, just enough, they could slip into the narrow utility corridor behind their cells. A space meant for maintenance, not escape. That was just step one. The real journey was only beginning, and every detail had to be perfect. The corridor was a maze of pipes, twisting and turning, leading up 3 stories to the roof. Navigating it would require nerves of steel and a flawless memory. They'd have to break through a sealed ventilation shaft, then cross the roof in darkness, dodging searchlights that swept the night like silent sentinels. One misstep, and the alarm would sound. But the real challenge was the water. The bay was a barrier as formidable as any wall, cold and unforgiving. Alcatraz was an island for a reason. The bay was cold, the currents deadly, and the distance to shore daunting, even for the strongest swimmer. Swimming was suicide. They needed a boat, something sturdy enough to survive the waves and stealthy enough to avoid detection. So, they decided to build one, out of raincoats. It was a desperate idea, but desperation breeds ingenuity. Every seam was carefully sealed, every piece tested in secret, every step was risky. Every night they worked in silence, hiding their progress from the guards, communicating with whispers and glances. The plan would take months, maybe longer. Time was both their enemy and their ally, each day bringing them closer to freedom or discovery. They chipped at concrete, built tools from scraps, and constructed a raft. All under the noses of the prison staff, who never suspected a thing. One slip, one sound, and it was over. The risk was constant, the tension unrelenting, but they pressed on, driven by the hope of freedom. The dream of escape was stronger than the fear of failure. The escape was more than a dream, it was becoming a reality. The countdown had begun, and with every passing night, hope grew stronger. Tools were forbidden, so the team made their own. A saw blade from the yard, sharpened spoons from the mess hall, and a drill built from a vacuum cleaner motor. These were their weapons. Each night, after the final count, they took turns digging at the vents, one man working, the others on watch. Music hour masked the sound. Clarence's accordion was their cover. Dust and debris were flushed away bit by bit. To hide the holes, they crafted fake wall panels from painted cardboard and newspaper. By day, the panels fooled the guards. By night, the work continued. Meanwhile, they stole over 50 raincoats to build a raft and life vests, vulcanizing the seams with heat from steam pipes. Their secret workshop on the roof became a factory of hope. Every detail was improvised, every risk calculated. In the heart of Alcatraz, desperation became genius. The guards' headcounts were relentless. The solution? Dummy heads, sculpted from soap, toilet paper, and concrete dust, with real hair from the barbershop. In the dim light, they looked like sleeping men. Each night the escapees placed the heads in their beds, slipped through the holes, and vanished into the shadows. The guards, bored and routine-bound, never suspected a thing. The dummies bought them precious hours. It was psychological warfare, turning the prison's monotony against itself. Papier-mâché and human hair fooled the system. The escape was now a nightly rehearsal. The final barrier was the ventilation shaft at the top of the utility corridor. Using smuggled tools, they painstakingly unbolted the heavy fan, muffling every sound. They built a false cover to hide their rooftop access. The roof became their secret workshop, a taste of freedom, under the stars. The utility corridor was a claustrophobic maze of pipes, hot, narrow, and dangerous. Night after night, they climbed, risking burns and falls. Every journey was a test of nerve, but each trip brought them closer to escape. June 11, 1962, the night of the escape. A storm brewed over the bay, masking their movements. After the final headcount, Morris and the Anglin brothers placed their dummy heads and slipped away. Alan West was trapped, his fake wall jammed, so the others pressed on. They climbed the utility corridor, emerged onto the roof and dodged searchlights. Down a kitchen pipe, through a fence across the parade ground, they reached the shore. There, they inflated their raincoat raft and pushed into the freezing water. The bay was black and wild, the currents fierce. They paddled into the fog, vanishing from sight. Behind them, Alcatraz slept, unaware its legend was about to be shattered. For the first time, the inescapable prison had been beaten. Morning brought chaos. A guard nudged Morris's bed, the dummy head rolled to the floor. Alarms blared, the prison locked down. The Anglin cells revealed the same trick. West confessed the plan. The FBI and Coast Guard launched a massive search. They found a paddle, a wallet and a homemade life vest, but never the raft or the men. Officially, the escapees drowned. The prison's reputation was preserved, but the truth was murky. Rumors and alleged sightings persisted for years. The escape embarrassed Alcatraz, hastening its closure in 1963. The legend only grew. Did they make it, or did the bay claim them? The Alcatraz escape is more than a prison break. It's a legend. 3 men, armed with spoons and raincoats, took on the impossible. It's a story of hope, ingenuity, and the refusal to give up. Alcatraz was built to crush the human spirit, but it underestimated determination. Morris and the Anglins used the system's routines and materials against it. They found cracks in a fortress designed to be seamless. Whether they survived or not, their journey is what matters. They proved hope can exist in the darkest places. The empty cells and dummy heads are monuments to resilience. The legend endures because it's about more than escape. It's about the will to try. Alcatraz's greatest secret isn't how they got out, but why they tried. The story lives on, a testament to the unbreakable human spirit. And that's why we still tell it today.